Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Misfits Racing League. We are live here under the lights tonight in Abu Dhabi for a reverse championship order sprint followed by a main feature race. My name is JP. I'm your commentator, proudly the first stream on the JCC Network, bringing you all the action here tonight. Always a pleasure to be here in Abu Dhabi. Personally, one of my favourite tracks. Definitely a great place to get started. Like I say, the first event of the evening is a reverse championship order sprint. So this is definitely the sort of sprint that's going to shake things up. Definitely going to be action-packed with the drivers at the back looking to come through to score those big points. Maybe the guys at the front looking to sneak in to score some early championship points if they can. And definitely going to be one to keep our eyes on. So just a few moments while the guys get their setups on, get their strategy sorted out. Obviously not much strategy, you would hope, in a sprint race. You would be praying that there's no dives into the pit lane during a sprint race. Just, I believe, 10 laps straight around this Yas Marina circuit here under the lights in Abu Dhabi. You can see the F1 Paddock Club absolutely on their feet for this one, as I hope all of you at home are as well. I can most certainly assure you. I hope to be on my feet at the end of this event here tonight. And this sprint race definitely looks like it's going to provide us with a lot of action. There's some big names in this league and some big names that will be looking to come through. I believe this is round 12 of the championship. Do correct me in the chat if I'm wrong about that. But we're on the business end of the season now. So definitely going to be big pressure on certain drivers. Other drivers maybe just stepping into the cockpit for the first time, looking to prove themselves potentially for next season. But as we just await now those cars on the grids. Round 9 today. Okay, my apology. We've already got the first mistake out of the way. That's not a problem. Hopefully there won't be any more. So it's round 9 today. So there we go. That's all sorted. So if you don't mind me asking, Jack, how many rounds of the season are there? Are we close to the end of the championship? I would assume round 9 is probably midway to the back end of the championship, right? So I assume we're towards the business end. So yeah, some interesting rules in this league, but here we are then, immediately straight into the action with 5 red lights ahead of the drivers, and it is lights out, and away we go for the Yas Marina sprint, and it is Mercedes of NUFC Dam who gets away from pole position, but Super Striker already up the inside, and we've already got contact into turn 1, and that is Pistol Racing and Slipstream already relegated to the back of the pack. Massive contact down into turn 1, and we know that that corner pinches up ever so slightly on the apex, and you can see there that is the contact it makes. Even more contact as we go into, I believe, turn 4, and these drivers not giving an inch to each other. You can see the position change on the left hand side of your screens. Edin B in the Sauber already up 8 positions from his starting position. Absolutely sublime start. Max in the Haas up 11 places as he goes around the outside of the chicane on the Alpine. We can see there NUFC Dam down 5 places at the moment. Now make that 6 as the Haas moves to the outside, and potentially it doesn't look like there's any damage on that Mercedes, so really just struggling with the tyres at the minute. The tyre strategy is quite split, I do believe, as yes, we can see it's about half and half between the mediums and the hard compound tyres. Many liveries being flown here, as we can see Billy Mewis in the Alpine already up to 10th. Definitely a man you would expect to be towards the top of the grid, now making his way up to 9th. But as we sprint on through this Yas Marina sprint, lap 2 of 10 starts, and Super Striker already flying away out in front, 2 seconds clear of Big Boar in the Haas. It is then Edin in 3rd with El Humero in 4th. Sauber having a lovely day out so far, as we've got a yellow flag, and that is for Liggs at the Williams. Again, turn 1 drama, and Liggs now relegated to the back of the pack. Red Bull driving for Aston Martin. Obviously used to have a bit of a partnership, Aston Martin and Red Bull. And Red Bull manages to get up into 4th place. But El Humoro and the Sauber will not let that go without a fight. And back down the inside, we're going on board with the Sauber at the chicane. A little bit of contact as Red Bull tries to hold it around the outside. Loses the position to Max the Rat. And El Humoro decides he's going to give that position back. Very sportsmanlike racing there from the Sauber driver. Gives the position back, but now surely is going to be under a little bit of pressure. Luckily, he had quite a gap behind him, but Boakes round the outside in the Alpine. Is he able to make that move stick on the Alpine? Or on the Sauber, sorry. The Sauber will try and fight this around the outside. Does a good job of it, but gets a little bit boxed in by the Aston Martin ahead of him. Runs wide off the track and loses position to both Alpines now. Billy Mewis, ever the opportunist, sneaks through up into 7th. And I said you'd expect him to be towards the sharp end of the grid. Well, as we look towards a position change, up 7 places. Max the Rat in 4th for Haas. Up 14 places in 2 laps, or 3 laps now. Beautiful driving from the Haas driver, and right on the back of Edin as well, making the medium tyres work absolutely beautifully, and definitely looking in prime position for a podium spot here in this sprint race. It is Red Bull who currently runs in 5th, and you can see the gap out in front now, 4 seconds between Mercedes and Haas. Edin with the DRS as well will try and make a move work if he can, but Max behind him with a little bit more battery as we go into the chicane will most certainly be trying to line up a move, and I'm sure his teammate will be trying to will him on and help him all the way, because you would much rather this be a 2-man game than a 1-man game. Doesn't look like there's enough gain into the next left-hander though, and he will have to sit behind for the time being, but a lot better grip on the inside. Very close to contact there as they come round, and now to the outside goes Max, and that is his 15th position gained, now up into 3rd. And that Sakura-inspired livery from the Japanese Grand Prix is absolutely propelling him towards the sharp end of the grid. Billy Mewis still gaining on the back of Red Bull. He's got Boakes right behind him. I believe those Alpines have inverted at some point during lap 3. As we can see, Red Bull getting very close to the back of the Sauber. Maybe more turn 1 drama. There is a little bit as there's contact front wing to rear diffuser. Nothing that will pay dividends too much though, although Billy Mewis is now really on the back of the Aston Martin and definitely looking to make a move pay. Is he going to stick it down the inside just like 4-time world champion Max Verstappen? Definitely looks for the move, scares Red Bull a little bit wide, and now is there an opportunity opening up? Red Bull with a hell of a lot of battery though, as Max moves past his teammate and up into 2nd place. Billy Mewis unfortunately not able to replicate that, but will have another dose of the DRS. Although the issue for him is Red Bull will be getting the DRS on Edin, and with plenty more battery than the car behind him, you would expect Red Bull will be safe for the time being. Very close to contact there between the Sauber and Haas, and you can see the better grip on the inside, but a little bit of a snap there for Edin, and he will have to stick behind for the time being. King Fenrir manages to get past El Humoro, who seems to have had a little bit of a moment. There was a yellow flag deployed for him and losing a big handful of positions. As we can see there, that's very close to contact, and I believe there was contact between H1 Jab and Hayes in the Red Bull, but doesn't look like any damage done. They will continue on in 11th and 12th respectively. El Humoro has definitely fallen back from the start, and we can see there those guys at the back, NUFC, Dam, Lig, Slipstream and Pistol Racing, all 4 of them having their own drama and falling back. 5.2 seconds the gap out in front between Super Striker and Max the Rat. It is then Big Boar in 3rd place. Haas having an absolutely dream outing currently in this Yas Marina sprint, 2nd and 3rd for the Haas outfit at the minute. It is Red Bull who is looking to try and displace the 2 Haas drivers though, sneaking down the inside. Maybe a little bit of disconnection issues going on there as the Haas goes into a little bit of ghost mode. Little bit of lag it does look like for the Haas, now losing the position to the Sauber driver of Edin, and Billy Mewis, ever the opportunist, like I've said before, will most certainly try and sneak his way through if possible. Looks very close to contact there as we're 3 abreast through the next left-hander. Not often you'll see that. Very unorthodox overtaking place there, but Billy Mewis looking to make it work round the outside. Is there position to be gained for him? There most certainly is. Red Bull almost drifting his way, World Rally Championship style, through the final chicane, but managing to get himself through nice and neatly. Billy Mewis now up into 4th, and the highest running hard compound runner definitely in a good position. But as I say that, the old commentator's curse, 3-second time penalty for the Alpine driver, and that will most certainly not be helping him. And realistically, is there anyone that can stop Super Striker? 5.8 seconds out in front, and that gap is only gaining 5.9 seconds now. And Super Striker most certainly looking on for a dominant win in this sprint race. Red Bull looking towards the inside of the old infamous Verstappen corner. Off the track goes Max, and Red Bull goes straight through. Will have the DRS to pull himself a little bit of a gap as well. And Max losing that position, but is safe to the car behind. 1.3 seconds to Billy Mewis is definitely safer than Billy Mewis would have liked. Eden is right on the back of him in the Sauber. Boak's also involved. Billy Mewis's teammate. Definitely looking to get on the back of that Sauber. Alpine having a beautiful day out. Big Board just falling a little bit back, but most certainly still in that fight. You would imagine the hard runners maybe feeling the benefit a little bit more now. As you can see, Hayes manages to get past Slayer Hart, and Slayer Hart really having some issues there. Is H1 Jab flying down the inside, managing to get through on the Red Bull and the V-Carb. As you can see here, Ferrari and V-Carb doing battle, and there the Sauber going very, very wide. That's El Humero just misjudging the braking a little bit, as we see Big Davlar picks up a 3-second penalty in 12th position currently. As we can see Max, lap 7 of 10 now, still closing in on the Aston Martin, I should say, sorry, ahead of him. 5 tenths is the gap, and Red Bull with a 3-second time penalty definitely will not be helping him come the checkered flag. Same with Billy Mewis, who's just teetering around the DRS effect, and we can see Eden is just falling off the back of the Sauber, and that is really going to be music to Boak's ears, who will now be gaining on the Sauber driver ahead of him with DRS. And with Eden not getting that DRS benefit, you would imagine that gap will close pretty quickly. But a little bit of a mistake there from the Alpine, running a little bit deep into that chicane and not able to try and make a move past. It is Milster who's currently in 7th for Aston Martin, looking to try and make his way through on the Alpine driver. Is then King Fenrir, who's currently in 8th position for Williams. On the hard compound tyres, you would expect him to definitely move up a few positions. As we can also see Hayes still battling away with the Ferrari, who picks up a 3-second penalty. No way through for H1 Jab at the time being. And you can see the penalties just starting to roll in as Super Striker now begins lap 8 of 10 here. 6.3 seconds the gap. And with the car behind having a penalty, you would imagine this is the ideal way that this sprint has gone. He couldn't really ask for much more out in front. Billy Mewis still trapped behind the Haas and Aston Martin ahead of him. Red Bull doing an absolutely great job to save his battery, and nothing really that Max can do. Max has not had an answer for the last sort of 3-4 laps now. There's not really anything the Haas has been able to do. We'll drain the overtake button, but such is the speed of the Aston Martin, it looks like he's relatively safe. On board with the Haas, we are gaining towards the chicane. Just needed about 200 metres more straight before we got to the corner, but a big tank slapper there for Red Bull will surely harm him. But the exit for Max was not the greatest, as we can still see these two going at it, Hayes and H1 Jab. We've got Slayer Hart in the background of this fight that will most certainly be looking to take opportunist risks. If a door opens up, we'll ride on board with the V-Carb as towards the next left-hander we go. Is there any time gain in it for him? Liggs manages to get through on Pistol Racing, for 16th place. But as we now round the final corner with Super Striker to begin the penultimate lap of this sprint, you can see there is just absolutely nothing doing as Billy Mewis gets up into 3rd, and Max now falls a little bit back on those medium tyres, definitely starting to give up a little bit. And now Billy, this will be important for him as there is a massive spin, and into the wall goes Red Bull. driving a brilliant race so far. And without the penalty, running in second place, I was literally just about to say an important move for Billy Mewis, trying to get through because that would be for position with the penalty. But Red Bull, round at turn 1 and into the wall, even more turn 1 drama in this Yas Marina sprint. And Red Bull now with massive, massive damage to the front wing of that Aston Martin, down into 9th, and you can be sure that the cars behind will look to punish as Hayes manages to get through. Is there a move on the inside potentially against the Aston Martin? Has to brake early, such is that damage. Little bit of contact. Trying to hang it round the outside. Doesn't look like he's able to do so, but now with another dose of the DRS, surely is able to get past round the outside. Will hold that outside line. Red Bull will force him as wide as he possibly can. And great defensive driving here, but H1 jab on the inside manages to nick the position away from the Red Bull. But the Aston Martin of Red Bull doing an absolutely brilliant job as Super Striker now begins the final lap of this sprint race. And it has been a dream sprint race for him. You can see on board with Billy Mewis, for half the track, you can't even see Super Striker out in front. Max, you'd imagine, won't be able to go for an on-track overtake, such as the degradation on those medium tyres. But with Billy Mewis's penalty, it would take some sort of big mistake for Max to fall out of that 3-second buffer. And you would imagine Max, I mean, we'll look again at the position change. Up 15 places is the Haas driver. This is one of the best drives I've ever personally seen in a sprint, as we've got NUFC Dam, who is really struggling out back. I believe he started on pole position, down 17 places. And that is definitely not the sprint race that he would have liked to enjoy. Billy Mewis will continue running in second. And the question is now, who is going to take second place? Is Edin maybe shaping up a last lap move on the Haas? Which way is he going to go? It's to the outside line he goes. Is he ahead before the corner comes up? Max will try and fight it. Isn't able to fight it though. Just can't get the power down. But for Super Striker, this has been the ideal sprint and a super performance on the medium compound tyres. Through the final couple of corners he comes now. It is dreamland for the Works Mercedes-Benz as he comes across the line to win the Abu Dhabi sprint and set this weekend off absolutely perfectly. Sublime performance from the Mercedes. It is Edin who will finish in second after Billy's penalty. Max will finish in third with a sublime drive. Up so many places. We'll check once more. Up 15 places from where he started. Brilliant driving. It is Billy Mewis who will finish in fourth, and Milster will cap off the top 5. But what a sprint race that was. Plenty of drama, plenty of overtakes. And well, if that is a precursor for our main Grand Prix here tonight, we have certainly got some action lined up. Boakes finishes in 6th with King Fenrir in 7th. It's Big Boar who will take home the last points paying position in 8th. Slayer Hart finishes 9th with Red Bull in 10th after that last lap spin. It will be Slipstream who finishes 11th with Big Davlar in 12th. Pistol Racing 13th with El Humoro in 14th. Liggs finishes 15th with H1 Jab in 16th. Hayes finishes 17th. And it will be NUFC Dam who will round up the grid in 18th place. Really struggling on his way to the line. Potentially some issues for the Mercedes driver, and the entire grid in a Mercedes sandwich. One of them finishing first, one of them finishing last. But he will finally come around the final corner to take the checkered flag. That is your sprint done, ladies and gentlemen. And what a sprint it was. There is your confirmation of the points. It is Super Striker taking the lion's share. Edin finishes in 2nd with Max finishing in 3rd. Billy Mewis in 4th with Milster 5th. Boakes 6th. King Fenrir in 7th. And Big Boar finishing off in 8th. The final points paying position. Well, now we have a little bit of a lobby switch up. So we will be right back. I'd say give or take about 5 minutes time. We will be back for your main feature race. Don't go anywhere, ladies and gentlemen. Be back soon. Well, ladies and gentlemen, have you settled down from that sprint? Because I most certainly have not. What a sprint race that was, and what a Grand Prix we have got ahead of us. Once again, we just await the drivers getting on those crucial setups, now setting up the strategy. And you would imagine this race will probably be a one-stop, I would have said. It depends really on what happens. You know, we could have a little bit more turn one drama, as seems to be the key, or was the key here in the sprint. But that's definitely something that we need to debrief from. And, well, if this feature race, or main Grand Prix, is going to be anything like that sprint race, not only will it fly by, what an event we have got ahead of us. I believe it's 29 laps of the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix we have ahead of us. We start at sunset, we end at complete and utter nightfall. And what will fall upon the track upon us? I must say, I'm incredibly excited for this. Not only for it being the first stream on the JCC network, but just what a grid we've got in front of us. What a league that we are here to commentate for. Some of the drivers, some of the caliber of these drivers, absolutely wonderful. And overall, just brilliant racing. This is going to be an absolutely mega 29 laps of the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix. And if any Formula 1 executives are watching this, if you're writing a script for the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix later next month, take some notes. Get your notepad out, get your notes app on your phone, maybe get a pen and some paper, start taking some notes, because I can assure you this is going to be an absolute thriller. So we just await those crucial setup changes and await the strategy calls from the pit wall. I would imagine it will be relatively split down the grid in terms of tyre strategy and wing balances, all that sort of thing. So definitely a lot of overtaking to be done. As shown in the sprint, you can most certainly overtake at this track. You know, you look at someone like Max, up 15 positions in the sprint race, and that's only 10 laps. You've got nearly 3 times that in the main Grand Prix. So he's definitely one to keep our eyes on. Billy Mewis, we saw him absolutely flying up the order. Unfortunate that he got the penalty, but if he can stay within the track limits during the main Grand Prix, he will also definitely be one to watch. I said it before the sprint, you can see the F1 Paddock Club absolutely on their feet, and I must admit I'm on my feet as well. That was an absolutely amazing sprint race. What an entertaining end to that sprint race, and what an entertaining start we're going to have here, as it's 5 red lights ahead of the drivers, and they were not held for long. It is lights out and away we go, and it is Eden who embarks from pole position and gets away cleanly through turn 1. It is Max who emerges in P2 with Billy Mewis in P3. We've already got yellow flags flying at turn 1, and that is for Slipstream. Again, turn 1 drama striking, and it is Slipstream who falls foul. H1 Jab also having his own share of drama at the back of the grid, but out in front, it looks all to be clean thus far. There you can see Bollard making an escapade to try and get out of the Yas Marina circuit. I don't believe it succeeded. Billy Mewis already going up the inside of the Haas of Max and up into second place. And Billy Mewis, we know, will be a dangerous competitor. Already up to second, most certainly looking to pay dividends. Multiple positions changing. As we go through this mid-pack, we can see nearly 3 abreast and potentially 3 abreast going into the next left-hander. There's just not enough tarmac to suit all the drivers. As you can see, the Mercedes going down the inside of the Haas and making the move stick. Lovely move from the Mercedes-Benz, and now Hayes will look to try and make that count as well. Maybe on the inside, just not enough of a gap, but a little bit of disconnection issues for the Haas, as we saw in the sprint race. Maybe a little bit of ghosting going on, might make that move a little bit easier. But rounding the final corner to end lap 1, it is Eden that is leading, but it is Billy Mewis who is right behind him and staying true to the back of the Sauber. Max remains in 3rd, with Milster in 4th. And I said I thought the tyre strategy would be quite split. There's only 2 guys on hards, those being H1 Jab and King Fenrir. every single other driver opting for the medium compound tyres. So definitely not much of a strategy offset. Billy Mewis with the DRS. That's really not going to be a move that Eden can try and fight. And Billy Mewis immediately moving into the lead of the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix. And straight away up the inside goes Max in the Haas. And Eden losing multiple positions in one corner. Is he able to try and fight back? Billy Mewis already flying away out in front. Eden is going to look to try and stick it around the outside. We look at the offboard shot. Just more grip on the inside racing line. And now coming under pressure from Milster in the Aston Martin towards the outside. Goes Milster. Is there enough room to try and get two cars through? There's big contact there as King Fenrir looks for an opportunist move. Trying to get through on the inside. Milster manages to hold the position and they all stay true. But out in front, Max and Billy now gaining away a little bit out of DRS of Eden. And Billy Mewis, fastest lap for him, as you would expect. And flying away already from Max in second. It is then Milster who's running in fourth. Still stuck behind the Sauber for the time being. King Fenrir on the hard compound tyres doing a great job keeping up with these guys. Really pulling himself into play when those pit stops come about. Looking for a massive overcut on the guys in front of him. And potentially to defend from positions behind. Very, very close we can see between all of these drivers. Everyone very, very close to each other. Billy Mewis is leading out in front. Is there a gap down the inside for Max? It doesn't look like it. Slayer Hart manages to get through on the Alpine of Boaks. That is a move for 6th place. But is Max maybe primed in a position to attack? We know how well Max Verstappen fares around this circuit. Can Max the Rat try and emulate that in a way? Looks to almost spook Billy Mewis with a fake move down the inside. It would definitely take a lot to try and spook Billy Mewis though. And Billy stays in the lead for now. Red Bull moves up into 6th place. Boaks manages to get 7th back as we see Pistol Racing and Super Striker really going for it here. Super Striker dominantly winning the sprint race. Most certainly going to try and elevate himself up the pack. H1 Jab picks up our first penalty of the main feature race. And that'll be a 3-second time penalty for going over the white lines. On board with the Red Bull of Pistol Racing, just falling a little bit off the back of Super Striker for the time being, who is really gaining on the back of Slayer Hart. But these DRS trains, you would imagine, will just start to creep open a little bit more. And that is crucial for the two leaders, Billy and Max, as they have broken DRS by a fair amount as well to Eden, who will be under a lot of pressure from Milster. But Max is a lot closer on this lap, looks towards the inside of Billy Mewis, and for the first time in this race, Max leads the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix. Billy will try and hold it round the outside, throws the car into the chicane, but in turn what that does is gives Max the DRS. But is he quick enough in a straight line to try and get through? It doesn't look like he will be. It doesn't. He thinks about a move, thinks better of it, and will have to stick in 2nd place for the time being. But great defensive driving from Billy Mewis as Super Striker manages to get himself up into 8th. As we can see Liggs battling away there with the Haas of Big Bore, running very wide off the track there. And you would imagine that would be a track limits warning for the Williams driver. You can see NUFC Dam definitely struggling out back, but still in the race, so anything can happen. Crazier things have happened in Formula 1. I wouldn't be surprised if he turns around to win this race, to be completely honest. That's how crazy this sport can be sometimes, especially in Formula 1 league racing. Lap 5 of 29 of this Abu Dhabi Grand Prix, and this Yas Marina circuit playing host to so many iconic races throughout Formula 1's history, and since its inception in, I believe, 2010, I want to say, we first saw the Yas Marina circuit on the Formula 1 calendar. And Max the Rat, most certainly, looking to make himself one of those winners etched into the trophy. Super Striker manages to get through on Slayer Hart and up into 7th place. And he is really a man on a mission so far. His next move, definitely going to be a little bit harder as he's not in the DRS of King Fenrir or Red Bull, who do look to be doing battle here. We've got a yellow flag, and there's contact down at the back, and that looks to be between Slipstream and potentially Big Davlar. I saw Hayes going off the track as well. I wonder if there was contact there. Slipstream does manage to get through on the Red Bull as Super Striker already. And I must say I'm confused about that. Super Striker was 1.4 seconds behind King Fenrir. Already manages to get through, so maybe a mistake from King Fenrir. And straight through goes Super Striker. Won't need a second invitation. And manages to get through up into 6th place. And Billy Mewis is definitely being kept true here by Max. Eden is just about breaking back into the DRS. It's teetering on the edge of that 1 second gap. Maybe needs to use a little bit of battery, as we can see Hayes and Davlar both come in for an early pit stop after their contact. You would assume that will be for their front wing damage if they picked any up. I would imagine pitting on lap 6 is definitely not what they would have idealised coming into this Abu Dhabi Grand Prix. Max is still gaining on the back of Billy. I don't believe Eden got the DRS, and Milster is putting him under pressure for now, but Milster running a very composed race thus far. Aston Martin having a lovely day out at the minute, currently P4 and P5, and just dragging each other along quite nicely here, remaining in the top 5, but Super Striker is gaining on them and will definitely be a threat if the sprint is anything to go by. Once he rocks up to the back of that pack, King Fenrir still on the back of the Mercedes, just putting a little bit of pressure on him, reminding him that he does also have to defend as well as attack. But on those hard compound tyres, you would imagine they're probably about the same sort of pace at the minute. But Super Striker looks like a man unstoppable and a man possessed. Slayer Hart sticking with the pair of them, as is Boakes, just teetering on the edge of that DRS gap, as Super Striker already into the pit lanes. So maybe it is already pit stop time for some of the medium runners. We know Super Striker will have been driving the life out of those tyres. It's the hard compound tyres that go on to the works Mercedes. You would imagine he will emerge in 14th place as we see El Humero come into the pits, and that is a massive undercut attempt there from Super Striker. And that could definitely pay dividends once these guys come into the pits. Big Davlar picks up a 3-second time penalty for those multiple warnings of extending the track limits. And Max still happy just to sit behind Billy for now. Both of them running relatively the same ERS. Billy just with a little bit lower, as you'd expect, trying to defend the position with the DRS, as Milster finally manages to get through on Eden and up into 3rd place. The final podium position, of course. And Milster now released a little bit to try and chase after the leaders ahead of him. It's then his teammate Red Bull who's in 5th and will now look to try and attack the Sauber driver himself. King Fenrir has just fallen off the back of this battle in the last lap or so, and Slayer Hart will be looking to try and make a move on him as the two leaders now come into the pit lane, Billy Mewis and Max. Now you would assume it will be the hard tyres for the pair of them as well. Billy comes into the pit lane, hard compound tyres for him. What of Max is medium tyres for Max, so a guaranteed 2-stop for the Haas driver, whereas Billy is potentially 1-stopping. Now the question is, where do they come out relative to this man, Super Striker? Well, we've got a safety car because NUFC Dam is out of the race, and that is horrible timing. Not only for Super Striker, but for Billy and Max, who have just come into the pit lane. You look at people like Milster, Eden, King Fenrir and Slayer Hart, who are currently out in front. This will be perfectly timed for them, because surely they will be able to make their way into the pit lane, get themselves a change of tyres, and still come out in the positions that they pitted in. So Billy and Max looking to cover off the undercut of Super Striker. Red Bull has managed to get out ahead of Super Striker as well, and you would imagine that harms Super Striker because he would have had a delta as he crossed the line, not able to push on as hard as he would have wanted to, and this now really throws this race up into the air, as you would imagine Milster will be coming into the pits. Same with the Sauber of Eden. King Fenrir may be one of the only drivers to stay out after starting on the hard compound tyres. Milster does come into the pits. Eden does. King Fenrir is also coming into the pits, interestingly enough. Slayer Hart follows him in, as does Boakes. H1 Jab is also coming into the pit lane. Big Boar also coming into the pit lane. The pit lane getting very active, and if we had our own Ted Kravitz, he would be absolutely screaming at us right now. Now the question is, Billy Mewis, where is he going to come out relative to these drivers pitting? Was in the lead before this safety car and before his pit stop. Gets to push on a little bit and push towards the delta using his overtake button as well. And luckily for Billy and Max, they will emerge in third and fourth. But Eden and Milster, the pair of them, gaining massive positions there. Milster now up to the lead. Eden into second. And you can see there, Eden on the hard tyres, Milster on the medium. So Milster, as well as Max, guaranteed two-stopping. You can also include King Fenrir, Slayer Hart, and Red Bull in that batch for guaranteed two stops. As King Fenrir, hard to start this race. Definitely an interesting strategy choice from the Williams man. I can't say I remember the last time I saw a hard strategy deployed, but currently running in fifth, so what do I know? Evidently working well for him. And we now just wait for the pack to form up behind the safety car. You would imagine it will be out for a lap or so. And then we will get back to racing conditions. But that gives us time to debrief. We've had a little bit of drama. We had Dam into the wall, which obviously caused our safety car. Currently on lap 9 of 29. Seems like there's a little bit of overtaking going on under the safety car here. Pistol Racing going very, very slowly under the safety car. Hopefully no shenanigans going on here. But as we come in to the final sector, I would want to say the safety car will be in next lap. But the safety cars are a little bit weird on this game, and you never really know. So, lap 10 of 29 of this Abu Dhabi Grand Prix, and we are currently under safety car conditions after NUFC Dam found his way into the barriers in the final sector for Mercedes. He will look back to come stronger next weekend. For Milster, it came at the absolutely perfect time, as for Eden, as they inherit first and second after Billy and Max came into the pits just at the wrong time. Same with Super Striker, came in looking for the undercut, now finds himself in 8th position on some of the most worn tyres on the grid. Hayes and Davlar, after their contact, are on the oldest tyres thus far. Currently down in 16th and 17th on the 4-lap-old hard compound tyres. Now the question is, will the safety car be in this lap? And my question is answered immediately. Thank you very much, EA Sports. The safety car will be in this lap then. And on lap 11, we will get racing once again here in the Misfits Racing League. Now the question is, when does Milster decide to go? It's not a very long start-finish straight here, especially when you consider where the start-finish line actually is, which is where you can begin overtaking. So you wouldn't imagine he'll be under much threat for an overtake, but will definitely want to try and drop the likes of Eden, Billy Mewis and Max, knowing their pace. We can see the telemetry at the bottom. He's now gone into hot lap mode. Now is he going to go out of the final corner? It looks like he is, and he is. And we can get racing then back to green flag conditions on lap 11 of 29. And it is Milster that leads, from Eden in second and Billy Mewis already putting the Sauber under pressure, pushing him through the first two corners. The Alpine driver really wanting to get on with this. And is there maybe a move on down into turn 4? He looks towards the inside. Sauber runs a little bit wide, maybe in pursuit of better traction. Does get that pursuit of better traction. But now, no DRS for the first lap after a safety car restart. Billy is draining all of the battery that he possibly has to try and make a move through. Nothing doing for him, though, into the first chicane. But is there maybe an opportunity for him to deploy more overtake? There most certainly is. Doesn't look like he's going to be able to go for a move, though. Max still sat behind Billy for the time being. It is in King Fenrir in 5th position for Williams on the hard compound tyres. You can see how much more grip it looks like Billy has, whether the tyres are just warmer or maybe the setup running a little bit better. But Billy absolutely pushing Eden through most of these corners around this Yas Marina circuit. Little bit of understeer though for Billy there. Nearly careering off into the wall. Definitely not what we would want to see, but definitely would give us a handful of drama. Milster sets the fastest lap of the race then, a 25.9 for the Aston Martin driver. DRS will be enabled this lap, and 1.5 seconds, the gap is out in front. Milster most certainly making that lead work as best as he can as Slipstream comes into the pits and retires from the session, making him our second retiree of the session. Now, is this the opportunity that Billy Mewis has been waiting for? He drained so much battery on the restart. Towards the inside he goes. The Sauber cannot fight it, and Billy Mewis moves up into second place as was looking for an opportunist move was Max the Rat. Unfortunately, just a little bit too late from the Haas driver. Careers into the side of Eden, loses a couple of positions in the process, and now Max will have a comeback drive of the century if he wants to try and get himself back in the fight for the win. He's still with everybody else from second down to him in 6th. But maybe it doesn't look like there's any damage on the front of the Haas car, but that definitely would have done damage to his tyres having a spin like that. And not the sort of thing that you would want to be doing in a Formula 1 car, I can most certainly assure you that. King Fenrir now runs in 4th with Slayer Hart in 5th place. And 6 different constructors in the top 6, or now as Super Striker overtakes Red Bull, 7 different constructors in the top 7. You absolutely love to see it, and Super Striker will definitely be a driver to watch as he tries to make his way through. El Humero manages to get through on Pistol Racing up into 13th place. Milster still quite clear of Billy Mewis, but that gap is coming down between 1st and 2nd place. King Fenrir just losing a bit of time to Eden, and Slayer Hart is gaining with the ERS and the DRS. Is there a gap up the inside? He comes off the throttle, a little bit of the Ferrari Lyco there, just making sure he doesn't go into the back of the Williams. Max, though, looked like he got a much better exit out of the chicane. And is there potential for an overtake down the inside? The V-Carb doesn't look like he really wants to fight that battle today. And Max moves back up another position, now up into 5th. Now he will set his sights on the Williams of King Fenrir. Big Boar manages to get through up into 10th with Boakes in 11th and Liggs in 12th. El Humero in 13th after that pass on Pistol Racing. And the 2 Red Bulls giving us a mighty scrap here through the final sector. Hayes looking to get through on his teammate Pistol Racing. Big contact there between the 2 Red Bulls. No team orders down from the Milton Keynes outfit here tonight. Pistol Racing manages to maintain the position, and there you can see Boakes going very wide off the track, and now Pistol Racing will try and put a car between himself and his teammate. Doesn't really look like there's a gap around the outside, uses more than the track, and surely that will be an illegal overtake, you would imagine, for Pistol Racing. Although it doesn't look like he's giving the position back. Although now, yes he is, gets on the brakes. But now the issue is, Hayes is going to try and dive down the inside. Wide goes Boakes. They're very, very close. Almost locking wheels as we come out of the next left-hander. Both of them with DRS, and Pistol Racing is the man that loses out. Hayes and Boakes scrapping away. Boakes manages to maintain the position. Eden still on the back of Billy Mewis, just not able to make a move thus far, and Slayer Hart has to stick behind Max for the time being. Super Striker right on the back of the V-Carb, trying to make himself get further up the grid. In all of that commotion, we had Big Davlar come into the pits and retire from the session, our third retiree of the session thus far. But for Milster out in front for Aston Martin, the gap now 2 seconds to Billy Mewis. That gap was coming down, now seems to be growing again, and it is all going swimmingly for the Aston Martin driver so far. Pistol Racing picks up a 3-second time penalty, and that will definitely not be helping his pursuit. He now dives into the pit lane. 10-second penalty for speeding in the pit lane and retires. So that is our 4th retiree of the session now. It's Pistol Racing, after battling away with his teammate and then the Alpine of Boaks. And he will see his race come to an end there. Super Striker manages to get through on Slayer Hart and up into 6th position, and now has Max ahead of him. Now this will be a fight we definitely do not want to take our eyes off. 2 of the quickest drivers in Misfits Racing League, Max and Super Striker, going at it together. And the question is, who is going to come out on top around this Yas Marina configuration? Super Striker in the Mercedes-Benz. It is Max the Rat in the Haas as King Fenrir manages to get through on Eden and up into the final podium position. El Humero and Big Boar doing battle as we go through the next left-hander off the track. El Humero is forced. Is he able to try and gain back the position? It doesn't look like he's got the grip to do so, and Big Boar moves through into the final points-paying position. But out in front, I really did expect to be saying that gap would be coming down. If anything, it's staying stagnant around 2 seconds between Milster and Billy. Now, Billy being on the hard compound tyres, and Milster, I believe, guaranteed 2 stopping. You would imagine Billy is probably in the driver's seat for now, but we saw he got the penalty in the sprint race. There's always time for something like that, even down to the final corner or the final lap. It's very easy to make a mistake and just run a little bit wide, pick yourself up a warning, 2 more of those and you get yourself a penalty, as we can see with H1 Jab and El Humero. But most drivers keeping it very, very clean here. No penalties really going around thus far. Only 2 drivers with penalties, so definitely the cleanliness of Misfits Racing League coming to light here tonight, as we can see Super Striker now right on the back of Max, and this doesn't look like a fight that Max can really fight here, and Super Striker immediately threw up into 5th at the first opportunity of asking. Max will try and fight it, just doesn't have the grip to do so, and Super Striker on his super comeback after that failed undercut attempt due to the safety car, now up into 5th, and will set his sights on Eden, who is just struggling a little bit to stick to the back of King Fenrir, who's running a lovely little race so far in 3rd. We know Fenrir is going to be 2-stopping for the time being. Slipstream, thank you very much for the follow, my friend. Welcome to the JCC Network family. As we can see, Milster still leading out in front, lap 17 of 29. It's Billy Mewis. He is gaining now, to be fair, on Milster. The gap now 1.5 seconds. Just needs to get that down a little bit more before the next DRS zone, and he will find himself opening the big letterbox on the rear wing, the drag reduction system. As you can see, King Fenrir also not getting his drag reduction system open. Eden is though, Super Striker is though, and this is surely the man that we want to watch at the moment. Super Striker right on the back of Eden, a little bit wider into the chicane, or a little bit deeper, should I say, into the chicane. In all that, we saw Hayes come into the pits for his, I believe, 2nd pit stop of this Grand Prix. And Super Striker, nothing doing for him thus far. Eden, though, with the DRS, was able to just get that drag reduction system open and move his way through. Slipstream saying, Turn 1 wasn't my friend tonight. Turn 1, I don't think it was many people's friends. The amount of drama we saw in the sprint race and in the main Grand Prix definitely looked like a struggle to just keep the car on track through Turn 1, as we see Milster dive into the pits then on lap 17. Super Striker also diving into the pits, as is Max, as is Red Bull. So now the question is, does Billy Mewis stay out for the one stop? Does King Fenrir stay out for the one stop? Does Eden stay out for the one stop? Or are we going to see a two stop from these guys? And could this be yet another undercut attempt from Super Striker? And where does Milster shake out in all of this as well? We're currently riding on board with Eden for Sauber. Doesn't really look like he's too fussed about gaining on King Fenrir for now. Still 11 laps to go in this Grand Prix, so definitely not a rush as H1 Jab looks to try and get through on Slayer Hart. Does make his way through down the inside. Slayer Hart will get the DRS to try and make the move back, but the only man now on the medium compound tyres in this Grand Prix, maybe struggling a little bit for grip, is definitely not struggling for straight line speed with the drag reduction system. Just not enough grip to hang it around the outside, and the Ferrari moves up into 4th position. Slipstream saying, retired as I was lagging and didn't want to ruin people's race. That's very sportsmanlike, I must say, Slipstream. Hopefully next week your issues will be sorted and we can see more of a fight for you out on track. Liggs is gaining on the back of El Humero. This is the battle for 11th place. Both of them running time penalties. Slayer Hart now dives into the pit lane, as does Big Boar, currently running in 6th for the Haas outfit. Billy Mewis stays out for the time being, as does King Fenrir. And Billy Mewis, now with the clean air, needs to see what sort of lap times he can pump in. Needs to see what sort of tyre wear we're looking at on those hard tyres. Another 10 laps to go. Will be 21 lap worn hard compound tyres. Definitely doesn't sound like the nicest tyres to be on come the end of the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix. But most certainly doable if he thinks that's the fastest way to the checkered flag. Eden still on the back of King Fenrir. Doesn't look like he's got enough battery. Well, doesn't have any battery, to be brutally honest, to try and make a move on the Williams driver. And the gaps down the rest of the field just opening themselves up a little bit now. Liggs and El Humero still battling away. Hayes manages to get through on Big Boar and up into 12th position. Liggs is just gaining on the back of El Humero a bit, but a little bit of a better exit out of the chicane for El Humero means that he will keep that position as we go into turn 9, as Billy Mewis does now come into the pit lane. So King Fenrir will inherit the lead. Now what I'm interested in is Milster and Super Striker. Where do they shake out relative to Billy? Hard compound tyres for Billy, and I mean it's light and day between them. Milster is going to come out miles ahead of Billy Mewis, and Super Striker's undercut has finally worked. It didn't work the first time, it will work the second, and Max also gets through on Billy, but that is going to be very close between Billy and Max, and you can see there only half a second between the Haas and the Alpine driver, but Milster's undercut has worked absolutely beautifully there, as has Super Striker's. And now really this does look like Milster's race to lose, unless we have someone like King Fenrir or Eden who decide that they're going to stay out and try and make the tyres work. I must say, personally, that wouldn't be my preferred choice. I don't really fancy going 21 laps on a set of hard tyres, that is for sure. I definitely wouldn't want to see them at the end of the race. You can already see a little bit of graining on the front tyres of the Sauber. Billy Mewis did manage to get through on Max and up into 6th position. And that is a big, big move for Billy's race. Max, we know, absolutely rapid. King Fenrir does come into the pit lane, so Eden now inherits the lead of this Grand Prix. H1 Jab stays out, and there we go then. Billy Mewis with a 3-second time penalty. I said we saw it in the sprint race. Billy now picks one up in the main Grand Prix, and with 8 laps to go, that could be absolutely crucial to deciding who wins this race. Red Bull for Aston Martin sets the fastest lap of the Grand Prix, then picks up a 3-second time penalty just to bring himself back down to earth and remain a little bit humble. Super Striker and Billy Mewis is really the battle we're going to want to be watching. 2.1 seconds, the gap between the Alpine and the Mercedes-Benz. H1 Jab running a little bit of a lonely race currently in second. 4.3 seconds to the car ahead, 5 seconds to the car behind. But Milster, you would imagine, will be bringing that gap down at a massive rate of knots when you look at the tyre offset. Ollie Southall saying Fenrir had to pit, did hard. That is very, very true. I completely forgot that. And I was literally saying that about 3 or 4 laps ago. Thank you for the reminder, Ollie. Definitely keeping me in check in the commentary booth tonight, I must say. Milster is most certainly bringing that gap down to the Ferrari ahead of him. And you can see the night sky now rolling in here in Abu Dhabi. Eden now comes into the pits, as does the Ferrari. So Milster will now retake the lead of the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix. Super Strikers behind him. We've got a yellow flag, and that looks like it's for Red Bull, and it is for Red Bull through the final sector. Is there damage to the front wing? There is damage to the front wing, and we saw him battling for the higher positions in the sprint, and then a last lap spin. Well, it's another spin here now for Red Bull into the pits for a new front wing, and this is definitely not the weekend that Red Bull would have wanted. Out in front, the gap 1.7 seconds between Super Striker and Milster. Milster using all of his battery down this massive straight, and you can see the amount of time that it gains him. Billy Mewis, 2.1 seconds behind Super Striker. He's pulled a gap on Max the Rat, now 1.3 seconds between the Alpine and the Haas driver. Super Striker, the real question is, can he try and gain on Milster? And what a victory this would be if Super Striker can win this race. Purposely asked to start from the back of the grid. Now currently running in second. Absolutely incredible scenes from the works Mercedes-Benz. Incredible consistency in his lap time. Incredible pace in his lap time. And most certainly making it pay dividends. The gap now 1.8 seconds between himself and our leader Milster. Lap 23 of 29 of this Abu Dhabi Grand Prix. And Milster looking comfortable out in front, but that gap is coming down between Super Striker and Milster. 1.4 seconds the gap now. So could we see an Aston Martin and Mercedes battle for the lead of this race? Billy Mewis is also gaining in that fight as well. And if it comes to blows between the Aston Martin and the Mercedes, Billy with the 3-second time penalty could always come through and pull that gap. Max is currently in 4th, 2.2 seconds off of Billy. Needs to stay within 3 seconds to inherit a position because of that penalty. It's King Fenrir who's currently in 5th though. On the medium compound tyres, he will definitely be one to watch come the business end of this race. Medium compound tyres for the Williams driver, currently 1.3 seconds behind Max. And you would imagine he will be gaining. And then it's not too much of a gap. I mean, we look at the gap to leader. It's only 7 seconds, the gap to leader for King Fenrir. And you've got to think he will inevitably get the DRS on Max. Then you'd imagine he'll gain on Billy. He'll get the DRS on Billy. That gap will come down a lot quicker than I believe we might think. But Billy is really beginning to reel in Super Striker. And if he is going to reel him in, he needs to do it now. Because with that 3-second penalty, not only does he need to overtake Super Striker and Milster, he then needs to pull a 3-second gap, which is not an easy feat in Formula 1 league racing. So this is going to be a struggle for Billy to the end. He almost needs qualifying laps plus 10% to the end of this race, does the Alpine driver. 1.1 seconds is the gap now between himself and the Mercedes ahead. And you can see Ollie Southall's opinion in the chat that Billy bottled this race. The 3-second penalty definitely hasn't helped. But I guess we can speak on that when the checkered flag falls, because currently running in 3rd has now just got himself into the DRS of Super Striker, who isn't really gaining on Milster anymore. Milster seems to be pumping in some consistent lap times and gaining away from Super Striker as Big Boar picks up a 3-second penalty. And we will quickly look to the penalties situation. It's 3 seconds for Billy Mewis, El Humero, Liggs and Big Boar. It's then 6 seconds for the Ferrari of H1 Jab, and it is 9 seconds for the Aston Martin of Red Bull. If we look to the position change, you can see Super Striker up 16 positions at the minute. Absolutely impeccable stuff from the Mercedes-Benz. And I'm just wondering, did I see... No, I'm evidently seeing things. I thought I saw a little bit of damage on Billy Mewis's car. Currently running where he started in 3rd position. Our real big loser is Boakes, down to 14th at the minute. Down 9 places. Definitely not a race he will want to watch back. But Billy Mewis has got a great chance of trying to get past the Mercedes here. Mercedes really not with much battery. Billy is gaining towards the chicane. Is there a move on down the inside? Billy thinks better of it. Will get a second dose of DRS, and the second dose is normally the better one. A big snap for Super Striker as well. Billy enables the DRS. The big letterbox opens on the rear wing, and he sails past in the Alpine up into 2nd place. Now, crucially for Super Striker, with the pace of Billy Mewis, you would imagine he will catch up to the back of Milster. So Super Striker just needs to stick with Billy, keep himself getting dragged along with the DRS, as King Fenrir does manage to get past Max and up into 4th position. And King Fenrir hasn't really gained the time that I would have expected him to on the medium compound tyres, but that really is just testament to the pace of the guys out in front. Milster, Billy Mewis and Super Striker absolutely on it from the word go tonight. But as I was saying, before we saw that move from King Fenrir, if Super Striker can just stick to the back of Billy Mewis, that's going to be the move for position. Super Striker and Milster, that's realistically going to decide who wins this race. So Super Striker is kind of being done a favour by being overtaken from Billy Mewis. But the question is he going to go for the move back? He is gaining on the Alpine. He's looking to the inside of the Alpine. He's overtaking the Alpine and back up into 2nd place. But the issue is, this battling between the Mercedes and the Alpine is only going to let Milster get further down the road. And this is not what either of them need. They need to line up in formation and chase down Milster. There's not long to go in this race. Only about 2.5 laps to go of this Abu Dhabi Grand Prix. They don't have time to mess about battling for 2nd place when they could be in the fight for the win. Otherwise, Milster, who has been absolutely mega consistent in this race and most certainly deserves this win, he's going to take it from them because they're too busy fighting over 2nd, and 2nd place is the first of the losers. King Fenrir isn't really putting a dent in that time between Super Striker and Billy Mewis. Max is still right on the back of the Williams driver and looking to fight with him towards the end of the race. Eden is currently sat in 6th with Slayer Hart in 7th. It's H1 Jab in 8th with El Humero currently running 9th for Sauber. Hayes in the last points paying position of 10th, but he's got Liggs and Big Boar right behind him on younger, fresher tyres, and Liggs is very, very close to the back of the Red Bull. Now, is Max potentially able to go for a move on the Williams of King Fenrir? He's got plenty of battery. He opts against using it, and you can see just in that one lap that Billy Mewis has stayed ahead of Super Striker. The gap is tumbling between Milster and Billy Mewis, although Milster is using his battery in all the right places, knows that Billy Mewis will be quicker in the straight lines, uses his battery in the straight lines, and the gap does just tend to stagnate, and Milster could be on for a beautifully driven win here around this Yas Marina configuration. Beautiful stuff from the Aston Martin. Billy Mewis, that 3-second time penalty really is going to cost him. It will only cost him 2nd, but big, big points. And especially towards the back end of the season now, every single point most certainly matters. King Fenrir, his tyres just seem to be going off a little bit, losing time to the back of the Mercedes ahead of him. We are on the penultimate lap of this Grand Prix, lap 28 of 29, and Super Striker is still on the back of Billy Mewis. And it seems to be, through the first sector, Billy Mewis and Super Striker gain an arm and a leg on Milster. But then down the straights, where he uses his ERS, Milster does just gain that time back again. But with 1 lap to go, it doesn't look like there's time. If Billy Mewis and Super Striker had maybe stopped their battling and decided they wanted to focus on the win, maybe they would have had a chance. But Milster has driven this race absolutely perfectly with the machinery and the strategy he's been given. Inherited the lead under the safety car when the guys ahead of him came into the pits trying to undercut. And look what he's done with the opportunity. You cannot fault him at all, Milster. A beautiful drive. And this will be the sort of win that will give him so much confidence going into the next round as we begin the final lap of what has been an absolutely incredible Abu Dhabi Grand Prix. And Milster just has one final tour of what is becoming such an iconic circuit of the Formula 1 calendar before he can call himself a race winner here in Abu Dhabi. Billy Mewis will not get the DRS on him. Super Striker has actually, I believe, fallen out of the DRS of Billy Mewis. And yes, he has. So is there maybe a late twist? Can Billy Mewis try and find 2 seconds somewhere in the half of this lap that we have got left? King Fenrir currently runs in 4th. It is Max who currently runs in 5th, with Eden in 6th place. Slayer Hart in 7th. And they are doing battle there, the Ferrari and the V-Carb. The Ferrari, it looks like there's a bit of DRS chicken going on here. And it looks like the Ferrari's going to win that game of DRS chicken. But is it going to get him the position? He'll get the DRS. He is gaining. But it looks like the V-Carb has saved enough battery. King Fenrir manages to get through on Max the Rat. These two are battling. But all out in front, it has been Milster with a composed, confident and assured drive and a most deserved win here in Abu Dhabi tonight, as under lights the fireworks were set off, and the fireworks are alight tonight for Milster and Aston Martin, who win the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix. It is Super Striker who finishes in 2nd place for Mercedes, with Billy Mewis in 3rd, capping off the final podium position. It is Max the Rat who finishes in 4th, and it is King Fenrir, in 5th. Eden finishes in 6th, with Slayer Hart beating H1 Jab to 7th. It's El Humero who finishes 9th, a double points finish for Sauber, and I believe, if I'm not making a mistake, the only team to score a double points finish. Hayes finishes in 10th in the final points paying position. It's then Liggs in 11th, with Big Boar 12th. Red Bull finishes 13th in style across the line. It will be Boaks who finishes in 14th, with Pistol Racing, Big Davlar, Slipstream and NUFC Dam failing to reach the flag. Well, what a race that was from these drivers here tonight. What a circuit that we come to here in Abu Dhabi. And these drivers absolutely setting it alight here in the desert tonight. And well, what a debut race for the JCC Network. Absolutely brilliant stuff. As you can see, the podium celebrations get started aloft the track here. And Aston Martin most certainly will be proud of their driver after a performance like that. Beautiful stuff from Milster. And he takes the lion's share of points and the winner's trophy. Well, thank you very much, everyone, for tuning in tonight. My name has been JP. I've been your commentator. A pleasure to be here, as always. Massive shout out to all the drivers on track. Beautiful driving. And we will be back very, very soon. From me to you, wherever you are in the world, take care.